Hello everyone, I am Dr. Donald Ozello of Championship Chiropractic in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the author of Running, Maximize Performance and Minimize Injuries. Thank you for viewing today's episode of Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report. Please feel free to visit my website, championshipchiropractic.com, where you can get additional information on the book and you can also connect with me on other social media platforms. Please enjoy this sports medicine video. On today's episode of Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report, we're going to cover posterior hand strengthening exercises. The posterior aspect of the hand and the forearm will be covered. When we are standing in the anatomical position, the palms are forward and the back of the hands are facing backwards, which is the posterior. That's why this is called the posterior hand and the posterior forearm. These areas are often neglected. We do everything in the front. We do our typing, we do our mousing. Everything is working these muscles in the front, and oftentimes the muscles in the back of the hand and the back of the forearm get neglected, and a strength imbalance can occur, and this can lead to several painful and performance limiting conditions. So we want to make sure that we always strengthen the back part of the hand so that these strength imbalances do not occur. Some simple exercises that you can do will help you to strengthen the back of the hand. First of all, you always want to work through a pain-free range of motion no matter what exercise that you're doing. If you have a pre-existing condition, you want to make sure and check with your doctor that you can do these exercises. And again, work through a pain-free range of motion. Never perform an exercise that elicits symptoms or makes symptoms worse. Any type of symptoms, could be pain, numbness, tingling, burning. You want to avoid an exercise if it increases symptoms or if it elicits symptoms. Again, work through a pain-free range of motion. The first thing that we're going to go over is motions in this joint right here. This is called the proximal interphalangeal joint. The bones in the fingers are the phalanges. We have the distal phalange, the distal interphalangeal joint, and the proximal interphalangeal joint. This is the DIP, this is the PIP. So this first motion is without resistance, just basically a body weight exercise. You're going to work through a pain-free range of motion, and it's to strengthen the muscles that extend the fingers at the PIP. Here's our starting position. You come down here. You don't want to squeeze down here. You just move down there to the starting position and you straighten the fingers. Now when we are doing this one, we want to keep the wrist in a neutral position. Throughout most of these exercises, unless the wrist is moving, we want to try to keep the wrist in a neutral position. We don't want the wrist to be flexed. We don't want the wrist to be extended. Do not want ulnar deviation or radial deviation. So keep the wrist in a neutral position where it is not flexed, it is not extended, and is not deviated in either direction. So I'm going to hold up my hand so you can see it really well. We go to the starting position where the PIPs are flexed, and then we extend. The thumb is not really moving in this exercise, so you could just keep it right next to the hand, or you can have it outwards. Whatever works better for you, whatever is most comfortable. And again, you want to work through a pain-free range of motion. The next exercise is motion at these joints right here. This is called the Metacarpophalangeal joint, or the MCP. Again, these are the phalanges. These bones right here are the metacarpals. So this one is strengthening the muscles that extend that joint. And this one, I like to put the thumb in this one. So here's our starting position. You make a real light fist, and then you extend the hand and you splay the hand. And again, keep the wrist in a neutral position. This is going to help to strengthen the muscles in the back of the hand and the back of the forearm. I'm going to demonstrate it on this one using my left hand. No resistance on this. This is just starting out. There's a lot of people who have a difficult time just doing this with no resistance. Later on in the video, I'm going to add some resistance to it so you'll be able to see. Here's our starting position. We're not squeezing. We're not making a tight fist. We just make a light fist. and then extend the fingers and splay the fingers. The next exercise is wrist extension. Wrist extension, we may do what's called reverse wrist curls, and that's a great exercise. That's basically what this motion is. No resistance right now. The starting position, the wrist is flexed as far as you can flex it through a pain-free range of motion, and then you extend the wrist. It's a very simple motion. Once you get this motion down, and once you get the finger extension motion down, you can combine them together. So what we're doing when we combine them together is, here's our starting position, and we are going to extend the wrist, extend the fingers, and splay the fingers all at the same time. You want to start at the number of repetitions that you can do comfortably and build up to 15 repetitions. I'm going to say it again, work through a pain-free range of motion. This is an important exercise for anyone who does a lot of computer work, anyone who does a lot of work with hand tools. So you want to keep this in mind and strengthen the muscles. Without resistance, we are doing wrist extension and finger extension and finger splaying. Here's our starting position, making a light fist. Extend the wrist, extend the fingers, and splay the fingers. I like to work one side at a time. You can obviously do both sides at a time if you wanted to, but I like to have people focus on doing it one side at a time. Again, work through a pain-free range of motion. Start with the number of repetitions you could do comfortably and build up to 15 repetitions. The next step is to add resistance. And you could do this several different ways. One of the easiest ways to do it is with the resistance band. This is just like having a rubber band wrapped around the fingers. I have one where it has holes in there that are attached to the band. This thing works great. It's very simple for strengthening the posterior hand. Here's our starting position, and we want to extend the fingers and splay the fingers. Want to keep the wrist in a neutral position. Again, no wrist flexion, no wrist extension. Do not ulnar deviate or radial deviate the wrist. Now, as you can see, I have my thumb attached. You could do it this way, and you can also hold this position for 2 seconds, or you can even hold it up to 6 seconds, making an isometric contraction. I would start with 2 seconds and then work out from there. Now you can also do this where you take the thumb out and you use one of the fingers from the opposite hand as the resistance. So here you can see I'm going to now work on the PIPs. And this works really well. Once you have mastered this exercise with no resistance and built up to 15 repetitions, then you can add resistance. And then we want to work the MCP joint. And you can increase the resistance. You can also change the angle of the resistance just by the way that you are holding the band. And then you can also add the wrist extension, just like we were doing before. And this is going to help to strengthen the posterior forearm and the posterior hand. Okay, the next exercise I'm going to explain is the wrist extension. You already saw me doing this without resistance. Now I'm going to add a resistance band. This exercise can be done with the elbow in several different positions. You can have the elbow and forearm supinated. You can have the elbow and forearm neutral or pronated. It actually works really well if you use all three of those positions because you will be targeting the muscles from a variety of angles. You can also use different types of equipment. where you can use a dumbbell, you can use a resistance band, you can even use a kettlebell. Some folks may even use a barbell. I don't like to use the barbell because it limits the motion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate this exercise in using a resistance band. What we're going to do is we're going to work one side at a time. I'm going to work the right hand side. The left hand side is just going to hold the band. It really works well if you have the band attached to something. As you can see, I'm in my office in one of the treatment rooms, so I don't have really anything that I can attach it to. What I recommend to you is the working side. I'm going to use the right hand side. Keep the inside part of the upper arm, the medial upper arm, next to the side, because this prevents you from using the shoulder in the upper arm to do the exercise. So you keep the medial aspect of the upper arm next to your side, and you get the amount of resistance that you want, and you flex the wrist. Here's our starting position, and then extend the wrist. In the gym, this exercise is known as reverse wrist curls. You can call reverse wrist curls, you could call it the posterior forearm strengthening exercise, but this is going to help a lot. Like I said, this is an area that is often neglected. So this is going to help, this exercise will help to strengthen the posterior hand and the posterior forearm. Again, start with the number of repetitions that you can do through a pain-free range of motion, then work up to 15. And then gradually increase the resistance. Now I'm going to switch and work the left-hand side. So here's our starting position. As you can see, I'm holding the band inside the fist. Here's my starting position. The wrist is flexed and then extended. These exercises are going to help you a great deal to strengthen the posterior aspect of the hand and the posterior forearm. Like I stated before, these are very important muscles to strengthen because we're always doing things in the front. If we're typing, if we're mousing, if we're gripping something, we are constantly using the muscles in the front. So we want to make sure that we strengthen the muscles in the back part of the hand to prevent a strength imbalance. Thank you for viewing today's episode of Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report on posterior hand and posterior forearm strengthening exercise. I appreciate you viewing this exercise. This video. Perform these exercises through a pain-free range of motion. I know I've said that many times, but that is one of the keys. An exercise is something that should help you. Do not make it something that makes any conditions worse or creates new conditions. Strengthening the posterior hand and strengthening the posterior forearm will help to prevent and lower the risk of several conditions in the hand and the forearm. Make sure that you eliminate any strength imbalances. Again, thank you for viewing today's episode of Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report. Please feel free to like this video. Please leave any questions, feedback, or suggestions in the comments section below. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube page. Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report is published every Thursday, and my other video, 2 Minutes of Anatomy, is published every Monday and every Friday. I am Dr. Donald Ozello of Championship Chiropractic in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am the author of Running, Maximize Performance, and Minimize Injuries. Thank you for viewing today's episode of Dr. Ozello's Sports Medicine Report. Train hard, train smart, stay injury-free, and accomplish your goals.